submit them. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes.
All right, cool. So tonight we have our candidates town hall, and I'm so excited for you all to meet our candidates. We took a lot of time to get to know them, and I couldn't be any more proud to have their support and to support them. And we also have Andrew Yang on the call with us. He's the co-chair of the National Forward Party, so he's here to meet the candidates with you and to
Mhm.
introduce to you the Forward formula, and essentially tell you what we're all about and why we're doing this and how these candidates enforce grace and tolerance. And I'm so excited for you to meet them. So we'll give everybody a little bit of time here to trickle in, but the outline for the night is we're going to tell you a little bit about the Ford formula, how we can fix the system, fix our approach to policy, fix our candidates, which is what we're doing with all of our amazing candidates here today. And then we'll let the candidates speak about their campaign, why they're running, their office that they're running for about 2 to 3 minutes. And then we'll wrap it up with a Q&A. So you can ask questions to the candidates or to anyone on the call, or just to chat a little bit afterwards with some of our leadership. And, so we'll jump right into it. I'll give everyone a couple minutes. That's just the outline for tonight. And whenever Andrew is ready, and he'll introduce the Ford formula, and we'll get right into it.
Hey everyone.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going?
All right, MJ, how are you?
I'm doing well. So I'm just gonna give everybody a couple minutes. You have quite a bit of candidates tonight, so we're gonna try to be respectful of everybody's time. I hope that the candidates can keep it in between 2 to 3 minutes, and then we can ask some good questions and then kind of interact a little more. And you can really get to know why, the Ford Party love these candidates, why we endorse them, and why they are a good representation of the party. So I'm hoping that we can kind of jump into that tonight. We can find ways to help each other. We can find ways to help our candidates. And we can start creating better choices at the ballot for North Carolina and then maybe eventually the nation altogether. So that starts here. Politics are local, you know. We elect here matters, and we can do a lot more than we think. So I'm excited about this, and we're getting some people to join right now. Some of our leadership is coming us also. So yeah, about 2 more minutes, and then we're gonna jump right into it because we have a full packed agenda tonight. Um, so we have candidates from all over North Carolina, and that was very intentional from all sides of the political spectrum. We believe good ideas can come from anywhere, and it's about working together. We want to end polarization. The majority of the people want to work together. It's just so hard to do that within our current system. And the goal of the Forward Party is to exercise grace and tolerance. We don't agree on everything, but we do agree on is humanity, helping each other and working together instead of having enemies. You don't always have to have enemies, and that's what the Forward Party has taught me. So, yeah, so I'm a little early, but I'm gonna let Andrew speak about what it means to be a forward aligned candidate, and kind of where we're going in the next direction. So, Andrew, whenever you're ready to speak on that, I'll turn it over to you for a little bit. And I really appreciate you joining tonight and meeting all our candidates.
Hey everybody, Andrew Yang here. So excited. First, let's give MJ a round of applause and also wish Pat a quick recovery. Seems like he's a little bit under the weather. But thank you, MJ. You've been a rock star from day one,
Thank you.
as are the folks who are running for office in North Carolina. I'm going to pose a rhetorical question. I think many of you know the answer to this. Is North Carolina a swing state? Thoughts? Feelings? So I've said, and I have to cop to it. I've said it in other environments. I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking that NC is a swing state. Like it feels a little bit like it leans a particular direction. And I will say that there are a lot of folks in not just North Carolina, but in different contexts who feel very much excluded when you have that sort of dynamic. Heck, there are people even in the most quintessential swing states right now, like PA or Michigan, who also feel themselves to be excluded because that we've sliced and diced uh, the country into blue zones and red zones. And if you're a red person in a blue zone, you don't matter. If you're a blue person in a red zone, you don't matter. And that's a disease. And I dare say a lot of the people who are running tonight that you're going to hear from represent the cure. There's some really exciting things going on in Forward National. Some unfortunately, like I got to say, guys, like I get privy to things, and I'm like, ooh, is that going to happen? And then have to keep it to myself until it does happen. But I will say that Forward has been an organization that wants to bring people together the way that MJ described, and we might be making an announcement around another organization that's joining the fold, as well as another individual or two that you might have heard of that are joining the fold. So Forward is definitely growing in really, really dramatic ways nationally. I dare say, in part because of what's going on politically this last number of weeks and months, where the Trump Biden matchup that we thought we were going to get, which I, as many of you know, thought was pretty unacceptable on both sides. And then at least the Democrats made a change. But during that time, there's been a groundswell of interest in Forward because one of the jokes I tell is that people used to think we had two functional political parties, and then they thought we had one, and then now a lot of people are concluding it's zero. And so in that context, a lot of people look around and be like, "Who's doing something about this?" It's like, "Oh shoot, Forward." Just about the only people in the country who are doing something about it. Though anything I do pales in comparison to the commitment that the folks you're going to hear from tonight, who are running for office to represent you and your communities, because I've been a candidate and it is hard, really, really hard. You wake up and you think, okay, how can I make my case? You're on the clock. If you have people around you, they look at you and think, like, what can you be doing to get the message out? And so your time really becomes the most precious resource, and it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of heart and soul. So please keep that in mind with these candidates that you're seeing today. As someone who's run for office, it's deeply personal, more personal than I'd actually anticipated. I have a feeling that the candidates are living some version of that, where they think, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing." How many of you all are first-time candidates? Let me try that. I don't know if there's like a. I'm sensing that it's probably a number of you. So I can relate. It's a real commitment, and it's one reason why I think getting behind so many people who are running locally is so important. Now uh, I'm a numbers guy. I'm also like a fun guy and a game guy. So I will throw something out. This is a surprise to MJ, but it's sort of fun. Um, at the conclusion of this call, we're going to have like a participant choice, and I will personally donate $500 to whoever you all choose after you hear from the candidates tonight. So it'll be fun, in addition to whatever else happens tonight, because I'm
That's
sure there'll
awesome.
be a lot of fun things. So like let's get behind good people who want good things to happen, because it's not going to happen without us. And certainly that is reflected in MJ's leadership and the leadership of other people who are making Forward a reality in states around the country. uh, I would love for North Carolina to be a swing state, by the way. That would actually make me really happy, and maybe we can push it in that general direction by being this fulcrum of sanity that helps people transcend the blue versus the red. Grateful to you, MJ, and yeah, let me know who winds up emerging, and then I will make that donation very, very gladly.
I really appreciate that, Andrew. That's amazing to hear. And I think we can make North Carolina a swing state. Many of us on this call are doing the work, so I think it's completely possible. But I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Forward formula. I get a lot of questions about this, and people are curious of how we're achieving these democratic changes. So we do that by fixing the system, ending gerrymandering. Gerrymandering in North Carolina is really difficult for candidates to break through, and some of our candidates on this call are having to break through that, and they're doing it, taking it on the chin, working very hard and diligently. And we can all support people like that, because no matter where you are, gerrymandering is wrong, and it takes away opportunity from citizens' voice to matter. So that's something we definitely fight for at North Carolina Forward Party. And open primaries would change the landscape of our state. You shouldn't feel restricted in the ballot box. You should be able to vote for your beliefs, and you can't do that here. So we fight for things like that with organizations and coalitions, like Better Ballot NC. and we make sure that we advocate for change and electoral reform and representation for everyone. So we can also fix our approach to policy. We strive for common sense solutions and to find common ground. We consult with our supporters, and we think that your leaders should represent the majority consensus, the common belief, and working together instead of feeding into polarization to come up with real solutions instead of more division. Good ideas can come from the left or the right, and we believe that it belongs in the hands of the people anyway. Um, but we don't choose sides. We choose the truth. We choose what's right and what's wrong, and we listen to each other. And we don't have to have an enemy. I know it sounds crazy in politics, but I think Ford is really well in making sure that we don't have to have enemies. Anybody can be a.
Hey, MG, Kathy Batts had a hand up for a little bit.
Oh, okay, okay. I'm sorry, Kathy. Go ahead. Thanks, Cliff.
I I wasn't aware I had my hand up, but I was agreeing with you strongly, so maybe that's what it was. I
Okay,
think that you're right, that the Ford way is that unity, I think that's good.
awesome. Well, I got Kathy on my side, so that's a win for me, and I'm sure a lot of you can agree. I hope you can. But we also need to fix our candidates, and that's why we are so happy at the Ford Party to introduce our candidates for this election year. We worked really hard to vet them. We got a wide range of people we chose from eclectic backgrounds, and we're hoping that you can find someone on this call that represents you that maybe you can support. And if you know any candidates near you that you think would be great and are forward friendly, they exhibit grace and tolerance and electoral reform and wanting to change our democracy for the better, let them know that Ford Party is here and that we are willing to work together with anyone from all political sides. And you will see that on our call with our candidates. They range from independents, Democrats, Republicans who are committed to making the work happen. So that's kind of what we believe in at the Forward Party here. And I would like to introduce our candidates shortly. We'll give them 2 to 3 minutes to introduce themselves, and then we'll take some questions at the end so that you can really go into detail with the candidates of what you are specifically looking for, especially if they're in your district. So without further ado, we're going to. Oh, people are being let in still, and I'm kind of running early today, guys. But
Yeah, I was actually going to say maybe since we are doing pretty well on time,
yeah,
if
we can.
anybody has any questions for
Yeah,
Andrew before we really get into the meat of the candidates' presentations, maybe raise your hand now and we can take a couple of questions, if anything.
yeah. I think Brenda Short raised her hand.
Okay. I'm not I'm in the Ford Party, but I'm not in North Carolina. So it's like really interesting that I connected to this and I'm willing to watch this. But I'm a candidate in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Is that okay that I still logged in from the board? I got this as it was a different title on my calendar. So but I'm interested in supporting candidates in North Carolina because my family lives in North Carolina. So I
That's
hope it's
great.
just fine for me sitting in it on this, but I'm a candidate in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Nice.
We won't kick you out.
Okay, thank
And
you.
I'm excited for you to meet our candidates tonight. But that's weird how that happens. I don't know how that could have took place, but it looks like I'm gonna go with Shalane Etchison and then Brad Hessel and then Bill Wolf. Go ahead, Shalane.
Yeah, so these are questions for Andrew.
Yes, Andrew, you still there? Not sure.
I am. Sorry, I'm
There we go.
walking around on the street. But yeah, what are the questions?
All right, Shalane.
Okay, Andrew, my question for you is this. What is the biggest resistance on the national level that you get when pitching the Ford Party? Because my sense is that people say, hey, this is nice in theory. We all would like for another party to emerge, but we have a two-party system. So get over it. It's not going to happen. What's the resistance you get, and then how do you kind of overcome it?
Yeah, that is the main piece of resistance. One of the things that's fun is that I'm a serial entrepreneur, and so that resistance tends to be less pronounced in certain environments, let's call it like among techies, to them, they just think it's ridiculous that we have this two-party system. They look at it and say, wow, that's really bad design. Let's do something about it. But for the average American, there's a conditioning that any effort outside of the two parties is quixotic or won't succeed. And the strongest counterexamples I give are, look, at this point, a majority of Americans say they're independents. More than 2/3 think the two-party system is not working. You probably know 10 people in your personal life that you prefer to see as president over the two major candidates. And people think about that and they're like, oh yeah. And then I walk them through the opportunities, and the opportunities are at the local level with the 500,000 local races, many of which are uncontested or competitive, that you could actually rack up tons of wins in. And then at the presidential level, it's that Ross Perot got 19% in 1992 and 25% of us were independents. And today that's 51%. So you can kind of fill in the blank what's possible at the national level. So those are the main discussion points that I have. A lot of it is opening people's eyes to the fact that the two-party system is essentially a protectionist racket that is decades past its sell-by date.
Yeah, completely agree. Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. I'm gonna move on to, I don't know if it was Brad Hessel and then Bill Wolf, but I believe it was Brad Hessel first. So Brad, if you have a question, you can ask
Yeah,
it.
so my question is North Carolina centric, so I'm not sure Andrew's the best person to answer it, but like Andrew, I spent time in New York, and I think that the system there, with respect to the way the party organization works, is a little bit more congruent with the forward party approach, in that in New York, when I was living there were two main parties and two minor parties, the liberal and conservative parties, and there was no restriction on the number of parties that could endorse a particular candidate. Sometimes you had judges who were very highly rated by the lawyers and such, and they would appear on the ballot on four different lines because they'd be endorsed by all four of those parties. In North Carolina, though, it's different. And once the forward party gets ballot access, then the only people who would be able to be on the ballot as forward party candidates will be folks that are registered as being forward party people. And that's also true of every other party. The Democrats cannot endorse a Republican or vice versa. So maybe that's something that we want to look at as another electoral reform in North Carolina. But I'm wondering, once the forward party gets ballot access, is there an intent to somehow maintain this reaching across the aisles approach that you guys are utilizing now? When of course you can't have your own forward party candidates because you're not officially recognized party. Have you guys given thought to that, and how's that going to work?
Sure thing. This is an Andrew question. The New York system, Brad, is called fusion voting. It is effective in 4 states, which is obviously very low, very sad. Other parties have been resisting any efforts in fusion voting because they realize it helps soften up the monopoly. It is a fusion that we are very, very bullish on, though I will say the prospects are very, very low in most places, to the extent that there's someone pushing this case. It's a guy named Lee Drutman, who some of you know. He's a political scientist. He's raised money around fusion voting. It is a plus where it exists, but unfortunately it only exists in 4 states.
Yeah, Brad, that kind of helped the question.
Well,
Answer.
I'm curious how the forward party is going to operate in North Carolina without the option of the fusion voting, at least for the time being. Once you guys get on the ballot, are you still going to be looking to recruit candidates from other parties?
I think that, yeah. I'll leave it to the North Carolina leadership. I'll leave that to you, MJ. But I think it's probably going to look similar to the way it is now, where you support people that are pro-reform and be as pragmatic as possible.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. You know, it's going to be a lot more challenging, definitely. But I think one of our strong points is finding as much different ways of thinking as possible, and making sure that we maintain grace and tolerance. And it seemed to work so far, so I hope that it'll work in the future. But you're right, we definitely need to strategize about this and be creative. But I think right now we just want to end polarization and find people that are basically trying to do the right thing by finding common ground and making common sense solutions. But there are a lot of hand raised, but unfortunately I do want to get right into our candidates. So if you could keep your questions for the afterwards Q&A, we'll make sure that we give a lot more time to answer some questions then. But I do want to jump right into our candidates. And our first one is Marjorie Benbow. She is a forward aligned Democrat. She's running in House District 62, and I'm very glad to have met her. She seems to want to really fight for democracy, but I would love for you to meet her yourself. So Marjorie, if you're on the call, please feel free to introduce yourself. The race you're running. Why are you forward aligned? What made you want to sign a candidate pledge? And we can jump right into that. So go ahead, turn it over to you.
There I am. Hey,
There
I'm
we go.
Margie Benbow, and I am running for North Carolina House District 62. And that is Northwest Guilford County, which includes Stokesdale, Oak Ridge, Summerfield, and then it kind of slithers down conveniently for the other side to do a little bit of gerrymandering. But I do feel confident about my race because, first and foremost, governor, I am a Democrat. And I've had various party affiliations, most likely due to the fact that I was unaffiliated for quite a while and I decided to become a Democrat to, I think it goes back to Brad's comment, as in there had to be a party to have some power. And so I went to the Democratic side. The reason why I'm running is that I've done a lot of work in policy, but I've never been a career politician. I'm running against a career politician. Just to give you a background about myself, I am a full-time farmer, loving this rain because my crops look terrible right now. I'm also a part-time attorney, but I had to change my career because of a story that I'm going to briefly. And the story, I was teaching high school science and coaching men's varsity soccer, having a great time. And my husband was in the military and he had been off doing something. He used to be the North Carolina Surgeon General, and he was doing something with the North Carolina National Guard. And he came back and he said, sweetheart, and he's the only guy who called me sweetheart, baby doll. He said, sweetheart, he said, you cannot be a teacher anymore. And my eyebrows went up like that because I didn't understand why he was saying that. And the reason was is that he did some math on the way back from his training. And he said, if something happens to me, we cannot survive on your salary alone. So at that point, I went to Wake Forest, commuted from Concord, and got my law and MBA degree at Wake. And now, if you go back after 5 combat deployments, he unfortunately came back from the burn pits with a blood cancer. He passed away. And over Memorial Weekend, Memorial Day, I went to Arlington National Cemetery where he is, and I did reflection. And that reflection was, had I not changed my career these past 10 years, I would not have been able to fight and dealt with being off of work, taking care of things. But it's also a sad statement about North Carolina, and that's with regards to the public school teachers and where their salaries are. And also, let's take it down to what the second and third order effects are when we fund the public schools. That's our future generation. That's North Carolina, and that's what got me up and running. There are obviously other things that got me a little fired up, to say the least, and one is women's rights. But I just sort of felt like there was this big governmental overreach that's going from my uterus and everybody else's uterus and choice of birth control now to even telling people in neighborhoods that they can and cannot have trees. There's a statewide ban on tree ordinances unless the whole legislature votes and approves it. And I just kind of went, wait a second, I want trees in my neighborhood. So these are the kinds of things. But I also looked at the fact that what is my number one obstacle to not represent? And this is why I became aligned with the North Carolina Forward Party, and that is gerrymandering. Cooper won this district. The last guy that ran only lost by 2 percentage points. But it's so important to vote down the ballot. And so the gerrymandering issue has me really fired up, as well as the fact that it's important when I get up to Raleigh, let's be hopeful in this, that I represent the people. And then I'm not some ideologue that's cramming ideas down people's throats and saying, this is what you have to believe because this is what I'm believing. So you take it. I do want to listen because that's what I am here to do, is to be that temporary employee that listens to all my bosses in my district and represents them and amplifies their voice. I've been doing a lot of canvassing. Every day I try to do about 2 hours of canvassing, and it's keeping me alive. It's making me understand exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. There might be people crying on the steps, saying how hard life is. Well, I'm hoping I can take their voice, overcome the gerrymandering, and get there. I feel confident I can because of the fact that 53% of the voters in my district are women, and I cannot tell you how many women are mad regardless of what side. So anyway, I'm really excited about busting the gerrymandering. I tell everybody, get out there and vote because that's the only way we can bust gerrymandering.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. And I love all the work you're doing, and I support you wholeheartedly. So with that being said, let's move on to Rhonda Mays. Crystal just notified me that she won't make it tonight, so if we can go to Rhonda Mays, and I'll let her introduce herself, why she's running, why she's Florida aligned, and what district she's running for. So
Good
Rhonda,
evening. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are doing well. I am Rhonda Mays, as was already stated, and I am running for and will win NC State Senate District 31, which is very gerrymandered. It is all of the outskirts of Forsyth County. It's Louisville, Walkertown, Clemens, um, everything on the outskirts, and then all of Stokes County.
Mm.
And we know that those Forsyth and Stokes are extremely different on so many different levels, but then they're the same because they have a lot of the same issues, just from a different perspective. I am a 24 years, over 24 years, I have been employed as a school social worker for North Carolina. I've worked most of my years, or just about all of them, I should say, in Forsyth County. And now I'm in Stokes County as a school social worker. The issues that I am extremely passionate about, of course, is public education. And the fact that we continue to have so many people leave the profession is very scary for me. And I am a person who believes in listening because, first and foremost, that's a part of my career. That's what I have been trained to do all of my life, is to listen and to meet people where they are and to then find out from them what they want to do about the issues that they're concerned about. And I work with people to help make those changes. I have worked on public housing issues. I have worked on food insecurity and health care, and health care for mental health as well as physical health and reproductive rights and freedoms and voting rights. And we have to work together across the aisle. None of these issues are a party issue. These issues impact all of us. So the more we work together, the better outcomes we will receive. I had a primary. I won my primary. And now, of course, I'm on the ballot for November. I am very excited. I am very passionate. I am very fired up. And I want to make certain that the constituents in District 31 are being heard because far too often they're not. When we have our current senator making choices and putting bills in place that no one asked her to put forward, and the people who are being directly impacted by those bills are saying, why did this pass? Why is this in place? We were fine. We didn't need this. She didn't ask anyone, and we have to stop that. We have to go directly to people who are being impacted. We have to be in those communities. And I'm very much grassroots. I That's how I won my primary, because I won my primary spending less than $4,000. Because guess what? I didn't have any money. My opponent spent thousands upon thousands of dollars with a whole lot of mailers, a whole lot of this and that and another. I did grassroots, going, talking to the people, holding meetings and forums in the communities, listening, having listening tours. And that's what I'm continuing to do at this time. I make certain that I show up at the events. And forward, this NC Forward party, it was very interesting when I met with them because of the fact that everything that was being said, I'm like, wait a minute, did they go to my website? About listening to people, about working with everyone, about being inclusive, not excluding anyone, because that's what I'm about. Being a social worker has taught me so much over the years, and also just being a human has taught me so much over the years. We are not living in an island or on an island, and we have to work together if we want to improve our conditions in this United States of America, and in particular right now in North Carolina. Thank you all for being on here, and I look forward to speaking and meeting more of you this evening.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. And thank you so much for signing our pledge and being forward aligned. We really appreciate that. But I do want to move on to Kathy Batt and give everyone a chance to speak. So we do want to have time for questions at the end. So let's make sure we stay in between 2 minutes or so. I know like there's so many things to say, and everyone's an amazing candidate here, and we're so lucky to have all of you here. But Kathy Batt, you're up, and we'll keep it pushing.
All right, I'm prepared to be concise. I'm
Okay.
running for North Carolina Senate, District 24, Robeson, Hoke, and Scotland counties. I'm forward in line because I met Shalane and her husband, and we had so much in common. And this section I'm in, this district, is really large, very rural, and they are very concerned about extremism on both ends. And that's why I believe that the Ford Party would be the best solution for this area. And I believe that if it becomes a party, we'll get a lot of votes here. And I try to present myself as a Democrat who's forward, and that I call myself a moderate to conservative Democrat, because some of you know, I was a Republican for years and years, and I'm not extreme on either end. So that's why I'm believe in the Ford Party. And this is a district I'm running in, and we're coming down to the wire, and I just hope that we all like move forward and win and work together. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I really appreciate you. Okay, Robert Yates, you're up.
Hey, what's up, everyone? You hear me okay?
Yes, you're all good.
So I am calling in from beautiful Denali State Park in Alaska. I was hoping to be a little bit closer to service, so if I disappear, I disappear, but a perfect, beautiful background setting. Um, So why am I a forward aligned candidate? So quick caveat up front, I'm a forward libertarian. I have an equal amount of contempt for both sides of what we call the uniparty. And this is the giant machine that has either Republican or Democrat and a color and a little mascot attached. I see no difference. And that is not inclusive of the people, for example, on this call who are fighting for actual issues. I just think that if we are working to promulgate a system that is broken, then we're supporting the system. So why forward? I tried to think of something a little different than what I've said because I've given the speech on a number of these calls, but I got one that I think will make MJ laugh. So my guilty pleasure, if you're gonna have one, I love this show called Married at First Sight. And basically, these experts pick these people out. See, I got the face. That's what I was hoping for, MJ. But they pick people out and they meet at the altar and they get married. And they're supposed to try to stay together for 8 weeks. And one of the experts is this guy, Pastor Cal. And I got to go see Pastor Cal speak and talk to him for a while afterwards. And I was like, what's the motivation behind this? And he said, United States, 50% divorce rate. In arranged marriages, 95% success rate. Even when you adjust for patriarchal societies, you get about a 73% success rate. Why is that? Because when you have an arranged marriage, you have a common goal. And it stuck with me. What's wrong with the US? We're just running away from something. We're always fighting against someone. You think people voted for Biden or Trump? They voted against the other one. We need a common goal again. So, Andrew, actually, when you started running, I didn't necessarily agree with all your ideas, didn't disagree with them. I was just like, this is someone with new ideas. Like, he's putting ideas out. And I gave a pretty good amount of money and signed up to volunteer, even as a libertarian. That's how I got in touch with MJ. And it's been a beautiful friendship since. But look at what we have. We have one candidate who said an election was fraudulently stolen, another candidate who's realistically probably been in middle stages of dementia for a while, and then his party anointed a new monarch. Kamala didn't get a single vote in a primary. So we have, I mean, really, that's the top of the ticket. You look at North Carolina, the Republicans have gerrymandered the heck out of it. At the local cities, the Democrats have created situations at the big cities where they've essentially gerrymandered city council so that they control all of them despite strong Republican blocks. The state board of elections, unaffiliated is by far the biggest block of voters in North Carolina now, but the state board of elections won't put an unaffiliated on. There's 3 Democrats, and they just voted to keep a new party off because that would hurt the Democrats' chances. And we talk about preserving our democracy. And I'm getting to the point where, like, I'm sort of over this term democracy. We need to think of representative government. Is this government representing us? And the answer is absolutely not. None of us are represented in any way. And so, like, I hear these candidates talking beforehand, and you're talking about you're at the events, you're meeting people, you're hearing the ideas. That's a representative government. And that's what we need to get back, government for the people and by the people. And that's what I'm running.
And that's why we support you, Rob. Hopeless romantic you.
I am.
But yeah, it's been a great friendship. And, I'd like to introduce another libertarian candidate that we have, because we have people all across the board. Brad Hessel, if you're still on the call, I'd like to hear from you.
Greetings. My name is Brad Hessel, and I am running for North Carolina Senate in District 18, which includes most of the northern edge of Wake County and all of Granville County. And my campaign and the Forward Party both came into being for essentially the same reason. We share the perception that there's a dark and stormy political climate crisis. Too many politicians are telling their supporters that their opponents, and even their opponents, their supporters, their opponents' supporters, are out to get them. And by extension, the only way for them to succeed is for others to fail. This is just not true. There are perfectly good approaches to addressing the issues that face us today that enable everyone to benefit. I also agree with the Forward Party that first we need to focus on electoral reform in order to unrig the duopoly-dominated system. So among my priorities are redistricting, process reform, and support for ranked choice voting. But I also want to highlight something that Rob alluded to, another aspect of electoral reform that needs our attention, namely fairness for independent voters. So when I moved to North Carolina in 1992, only 8% of all voters are registered independent, but now they amount to 37% of the electorate, which is more than either the Democrats or Republicans have. But all election management decisions about selecting sites and scheduling early voting and election day voting and about what voting machines are used and what IDs to accept for voter ID, what candidates are eligible to run, whether any particular individual is eligible to vote if an issue comes up. And as Rob pointed out about what parties are even allowed to be on the ballot in the first place, all those decisions are made exclusively by Democrats and Republicans, as Rob mentioned, because in North Carolina, it is against the law to nominate or appoint an independent voter to serve on the Board of Elections. And it gets worse. To run for NC Senate, as a libertarian, all I had to do was go down to the Board of Elections and give them a check for $140. Bingo, I'm on the ballot. And the same was true for my Democratic and Republican opponents. But if you are a registered independent and want to run for partisan office, they won't even take your check unless you also submit petitions for hundreds or even, depending on the office, thousands of signatures. This is patently unfair, and it's such an onerous restriction that we've had 158 elections for U.S. Congress in North Carolina since the turn of the century. So far, only one independent candidate has ever qualified to be listed on the ballot, and that's our fellow forward endorsed candidate, Shalane Etchison, who we're going to hear from shortly, I imagine. So anyway, if you want to learn more about these and other issues, including my proposals for improving our economy, healthcare, and education, or if you're interested in helping my campaign, please visit my website, electbradhessel.org. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Brad. Without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to James Bledsoe. He's running for council in Raleigh. So, James, are you on the call? Let's hear from you. And please tell us why you're forward line, what district you're running for, and why you signed the pledge.
Certainly. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Awesome. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is James Bledsoe. I'm running for Raleigh City Council at large. The reason why I'm forward line is because of the first plank of the forward pledge, grounding all of my work in the Constitution and rule of law. That and plank 3 of ethics, integrity, and dignity. I've been serving in the U.S. Army on active duty and the Army Reserve for 19 years. I also hold myself to the Army values, loyalty, duty, respect, self-service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. That's why I signed the pledge for the Forward Party. I'm very committed to their value system, and I would love to see that succeed, and I think we need that in politics. So also on their pledge, I'm trying to be a voice for all of Raleigh, not just the progressive vote. I'm so committed to the Forward Pledge to elevate the voice of all voters. I want to mention that I'm not just endorsed by the Forward NC Party. I'm also endorsed by the Veterans Party of North Carolina, the Libertarian Party of North Carolina, and the Reform Party of North Carolina. As far as I know, I'm the only candidate that has been endorsed by numerous third parties, and I'm hoping to also get the Constitution Party and the Republican Party endorsement as well. So on top of all that, I just want to let you know about my platform. Raleigh has the worst paid first responders in all of North Carolina. I am trying to fix that. We also don't really have a crime wave. We have a crime flood. We have the highest murder, rape, and human trafficking rates in the last 5 years in Raleigh's ever had. So I'm trying to fix that by getting more first responders, better pay, and doing so without raising taxes, by cutting a lot of fat from our spending, a lot of high expenditure items, like our city manager makes more money than Roy Cooper. Don't feel that she's earned that paycheck, so I want to cut that in half, and also get rid of a few departments that are really parasitic. I also want to help out with better housing affordability and supply. We have 20 to 30% commercial property around Raleigh that is just vacant, and I want to turn that into housing property. I also want everyone to be able to own a slice of the Raleigh pie. So I don't want to include any more apartments. I want to have more housing, more condos, so that way people can own a part of Raleigh. Besides that, financial responsibility, as I said before, I want to cut a lot of fat from our spending. I want to really help out with veteran outreach, because as most of you know, the city council canceled the Christmas parade, and they also cut the legs off the veteran parade not a week before it happened, so it was almost canceled. And I'll finish up by saying that as a forward line candidate and as someone that actually is doing this for a specific value system, I will be donating half, if not all, of my council pay to high school seniors in the form of scholarships. So if they are going into the STEM field, or if they're going into the trade craft, I will be donating that pay in the form of a lottery scholarship. So that way it's unbiased. And as long as I stay in North Carolina to go do that schoolwork, they'll get that scholarship. So I need your support now that Wake County has turned purple. Please visit electjamesbledsoe.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, James. I really support the work you're doing, especially with first responders. We need somebody like you doing the work, and I appreciate you working with us. So without further ado, let's turn it over to Ingrid Nurse. Let's hear about why you.
My forward people, beautiful people, should I say? Okay, so what you're seeing me doing a lot of moving around. I have 4 military brothers, and 3 of them decided to show up from Texas and everywhere else. So we got 200 plus years of military in my family. So thank everybody who served. I know Miss Bimbo husband served well, so we love everybody. And I'm gonna start canvassing with you. So Ingrid Nurse going out for Cabarrus County Commissioner. In order to keep Cabarrus County healthy, we need a nurse. All right, I'm passionate about education, because I will advocate for equality and fairness for everyone involved in the school system. I am a product of public education. Affordably funded housing. I'm concerned about the growth and the rapid growth of housing and industries in Cabarrus County that do not take in consideration the low and middle class income residents. Right now, over 1 million homes are actually needed for affordable housing. Right now in Cabarrus County, we have 4 tent communities, whether it's due to mental health, but how can we now house our shanty towns and tent communities back into society? Okay, elder care. We look at certain situations involving this population, working to ensure our elders care topics avoid mistreatment. That means we need to treat our elders with dignity. Next, economic development. I will advocate for funding resources and equality for small businesses in the community in order to sustain long-term success. When these small businesses come to the community, how can we now get that person that's homeless or lacking funds or lacking motivation, help them with their resume, help them with that application. Should we also practice interviewing skills with them? And then encourage large corporations to move here and provide jobs and revenue to our community. Also, I never met a stranger. So what I'm doing right now, and I'm glad to be about part of the forward party, because I am not going backwards. Never. So 1 step forward, no steps backwards. And I share their values. And like saying, I never meet a stranger. I walk up to anybody. I'm having both our Republicans. I have Republicans supporting me. I have Democrats supporting me. I have independents, because I never meet a stranger. Just like the Lord, I always say, we didn't say heaven was going to be Democrat, Republican, or independent. So I'm like a good Samaritan. Wherever I see somebody, I introduce myself and say, I'm running to be your next Cabarrus County Commissioner. Support me. How do you want to represent me? Do you also want to canvass with me? Because I'll go canvassing everywhere I go. That's me. I love y'all. Forward.
Woo! Thank you so much, Ingrid. We're going to turn it over to Shalane, and then after that, we're going to do some questions. And then, during those questions, candidates can discuss further how to help their campaigns and what you can do when they respond to your questions. So, Shalane Etchison, if you're on the call, please go ahead, introduce yourself, why you're forward aligned, why you're running, and the district you're running in.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Love the energy, and thank you to Andrew and everyone else committed to making the Forward Party happen. And I also love that there's a ton of veteran representation on the call today, too. So a little bit about me. I'm running for U.S. Congress District 9. I'm a former soldier. I was an Army officer for 11 years. That's what brought me to the state of North Carolina. I served at Fort Bragg, now Fort Liberty, for many years. And my profession was to be a leader. And I'm running because I'm deeply concerned, like I'm sure so many of you on the call right now, that there is truly a crisis of leadership in so many of our levels of government, and especially in Congress right now. The gridlock, the polarization, the partisanship, it's not serving anyone, and it's not tenable for our country. We have very, very real problems that need to be solved, and we need to have serious leaders in the halls of Congress who are going to work collaboratively to start getting things done. And so I'm a first-time candidate. Brad already gave me a shout out. I appreciate it. But I made the crazy decision to run as an independent, or unaffiliated here in North Carolina, as we all know. The identity politics in our country is so toxic that I truly believe I don't just want to walk the walk. I don't want to talk the talk. I want to walk the walk. And I said to myself, I need to run as an independent to truly show people that I'm running to represent everyone. I'm not running just to talk to Democrats. I'm not running just to talk to Republicans. In fact, I don't care what your affiliation is. I don't even want to know. You're a fellow American citizen first, a fellow neighbor and constituent, and we have so many problems that are in common that we need to solve and work together. And so, like Brad said, we had to do a petition. It's totally unfair, totally undemocratic, but the outpouring of support was showing that we were on the right path. We got almost 12,800 people to sign this petition in a short 7 weeks, to say that they want to see an independent or unaffiliated option on their ballot. There truly is an independent movement going on. It's now the majority of the electorate in our state and our country. And so I'm really proud to be pushing this envelope, and I hope that it inspires more people and also some reforms at our state level to make ballot access easier. But anyway, so, being a forward aligned candidate was a no-brainer to me. The first tenet is the Constitution of rule of law. Hey, to me, that's just the basics, bringing it back to what our representatives are supposed to stand for, and that we are representing in a way that's communal, and engaging with the people, and that we are role models. Again, it goes back to our elected officials being leaders. And unfortunately, we do not have that on our national stage. And I think it gives a lot of people permission to act with a lot of disrespect to their neighbors. So we need to bring back dignity. But in my district, it's home to Fort Liberty, so huge veteran constituency. I'm really passionate about good civilian oversight of the use of our military. I've deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. I understand the toils of war and the responsible use of our military forces, and then care for our veterans as well. And so I'm really keen on that at the federal level. Of course, I'd love to codify kind of Roe v. Wade at the federal level. That was a real concern for me too. And then how are we also looking at an eye for the future? I think for younger people, how are we making life more affordable for them with access to housing? How can we preserve things like Social Security and handle our nation's debt? So we can't keep discounting the future for the younger folks like myself. I say I'm younger, I'm 38, but I guess in the world of politics, that's pretty young. But thank you so much for having me. It's really been motivating and energizing meeting other candidates. So thank you for hosting this, MJ, and everyone from the Forward Party. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining, Shalane. So right now we're going to turn it over to questions for the candidates.
Hey, MJ, can I
Yeah.
throw something in real quick?
Yeah.
For everyone on the call, round of applause for MJ Hall. It has been my honor and privilege to get to know you and become friends over the last couple of years, but you all have no idea. You're looking at a force of nature. You give me hope for the future. You're the reason I don't worry about young people, and I'm so excited to see what you do next.
Thank you
Go
so
MJ, go.
Yes,
Thank
go.
you. But I'm learning from all of you. You guys are paving the way for me, and to meet candidates like you is truly an honor and a gift. And I'm rooting for all of you. Shalane Etchison, in particular, I would like to say thank you for being brave enough to run independent in the hardest district in the world. I really appreciate the work you're doing and your commitment to standing on your moral values. And Ingrid Nurse, for your energy and passion for the community, and everyone on this call for just being willing to do the work. And we have Democrats, Republicans, Independents. As long as you're willing to do the work, you exhibit grace and tolerance, Forward is here for you. And I think that's a feature and not a flaw, even though some people don't see it as that. You have to have an enemy, but here you don't. So without further ado, I'd like to ask some questions to the candidates. We'll have all of you.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going to interrupt. Just a little programming note. So we do want to hold Andrew to his promise of donating $500. I think we think everybody here is worthy, but at this time, we have to choose one person. So you should see a little poll pop up, and whenever you guys are ready, please select who you think should get Andrew's donation from this meeting.
All right, so we're gonna do that, and I'm excited to see who wins it, guys. But I do want to have some room for questions, and in spite of whoever wins the $500, I like the candidates to tell other ways that you can help their campaign, how to get involved, what areas they need help in or expertise in, and we can all help each other, work together, and delegate volunteers and resources to everyone. So I know that Steve Rao has had his hand up for at least an hour, then Victor Horse, and then we're going to turn it over to Ingrid Nurse. So questions and how we can help your campaign, and we'll see who wins this $500. Go ahead, Steve, if you're still on the call. Councilman Steve Rao from Cary, if you're still on the call, you can ask your question. If not, we're going to turn it over to Victor Horst, who's had his hand raised for a very long time as well.
Oh, that's quite all right. And I was just actually was wanting to get an update on where we stood with getting ballot access or registration as a party in North Carolina. Either answer it now or maybe ask questions of candidates and come to that later. But that's the only question I had.
Yeah, we're still in the process of collecting, but I do want to give candidates time to answer questions, and then we'll come to that at the after session. A lot of us are going to hang on, so we'll talk about in detail our party, and you can chat with us a little bit. But Ingrid Nurse has a question. I don't know if it's for a candidate or for us, but hold on. I think you're on mute. Give me a sec.
What I am doing, I'm going to everybody's church. So I'm a church girl, goer, and of course I'm a born again child of God. But what is going on is that I'm actually helping out with people's devotions. I'm helping out with Vacation Bible School. I am actually helping out with the book drive. So I'm making myself very known. So that's what we do in the community. We need what? Prayer first, okay? Then we need you to after you pray for us, we need you, if you like, to make a donation. After that, I told them that I need canvases. I need all foot on the ground. So I'm going like to Cabarrus County consists of Mount Pleasant, Midland, Locust, Kannapolis, Harrisburg, and Concord. So I've been in 2 parades. From there, I'm going to go take minivan. Somebody has minivan on their phone, and I'm going to go actually hand out my brochures and talk to people. So it's never a time off. Even when I'm in the store, I'm like, hi, are you a registered voter? Ingrid Nurse, don't forget me at the polls. Things on their order. That's what we have to do. Each one reach one. And then that's how you say, would you like to volunteer? I have a list of volunteers right now.
All right. And if you want to leave anything in the chat, if you have a website or anything like that you want everybody to see, we'll also send out a follow-up email after this call and, a little bit of our candidates' websites and things like that. But Bill Wolf has his hand raised. So if you have a question for a candidate.
So this question is for any of the candidates who happen to have received funding through Blue Amp Action. I'm curious what you think of it, what kind of skim they take versus give to you for donations, and what you think of a forward version of Blue Amp Action to promote forward aligned candidates.
Does anybody want to take that?
I think this is for me. I really like that suggestion and thought. We need to invest in tools that help our candidates and help our volunteers and activists channel support. So pending, let's just say that he's right. I'll stop there and say he's right.
Sure. Yeah, I was. I also meant to ask you the same question. I was curious from the viewpoint of candidates that are running, how they feel about that. It's a little different. Blue Amp Action, they're clearly pushing progressive agendas. Some of the emails from them for people that are moderate come across as being fringe liberal and kind of divisive on the left side. So I'm just curious what candidates think about that.
I've never heard of Blue Amp. I I don't know what they are. I mean, I
Okay,
know
look them up.
Blue, but I don't know that. I've never heard
It's
of it.
it's a thing. They raise money for candidates, but it's clear that the candidate gets a portion of a donation and they get a portion. I don't know what the
Oh,
split is, and but they clearly have they are clearly uh, very progressive in their aims, not moderate.
hmm, okay.
All right. Okay. So Travis French and then James Wynn. So we're gonna go to Travis first and then James, and let's see who's open to take the calls.
Uh, Hello, how y'all? My question is for Shalane because she is the only candidate that is in a race that I'm going to be eligible to vote in. Uh, I am a rabid independent. I do not care about parties per se. I vote for the individual and what they stand for that's most aligned with my views. I have the views across the board, left leaning, right leaning. I don't care, but there are three things that I am very, very strong about. I've done a lot of looking up information on you so far, but there's one that I haven't seen anything on. What are your views on criminal justice reform? Because that is a very strong thing for me, being a veteran and being a prior Leo officer.
Criminal justice reform in a particular sense, or just my thoughts on the criminal justice system and how it can be improved.
Uh, if you want to hear it, I'll tell you there. My point of view is nothing criminal justice reform can be done until we fix the root of the problem. The
Mhm.
root of the problem is for-profit prisons. They need to go.
Mhm.
Second of all, until that happens, we can't do anything. And it's part of criminal justice at the same time. North Carolina is very lucky that we're one of the few states that does not have, and I'm drawing a brain fart, but where the police can civil forfeiture. We are one of the few states that does not authorize civil forfeiture. That needs to be a national thing. Once we can get that done, and prison should be for reform, not for making money.
Yeah, I completely agree. And actually, North Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong, I was actually just on a call with Congressman Jeff Jackson, who's running for Attorney General, said that North Carolina is a state that does not allow for-profit prisons. So that is a
Yeah, I
good thing
did not
for
know
our.
that. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I mean, that is a good thing, but that's certainly not all across the country. Yes, there's something wrong when you have a capitalist incentive when it comes to our criminal justice system. There's no way that there's going to be some greed and forces that are creeping into that. And, the United States per capita jails more people than any other developed country in the world. That says something there too. And so there's certainly room for improvement on that. I mean, I'm big on um, how can we look at, you're right, working on the root of the issues to prevent any people getting in the system, juveniles getting in the system to begin with. And that looks like, how are we improving, helping families? And you could even take that all the way back to like pre-K, and that there are studies that show for that. So early childhood education, how are you supporting families? So I think that sometimes a lot of social programs get a bad rap, like it's a handout. But actually, when you look at it in terms of investment, there's pretty good ROIs where you're preventing people from offending and then getting into a system that is not built for rehabilitation. And then the state, they're now wards of the state, and are kind of a drain on resources in the system as well. So, it's a complicated thing. But I think most people would agree. We want to try to minimize incarceration as much as possible. So I appreciate your question on that, and I think we've all seen the kind of harsh jailing tactics that were like started in the 80s have not really worked in a lot of ways. So I appreciate your take.
Not at all.
No.
And And I'll also throw up there that if it wasn't for gerrymandering, I would have learned about y'all because I'm in the far north of your district that you're running for. So yeah,
Are you in Alamance County?
I am in Burlington. Yes.
Burlington. Okay, we did a lot of our petition in Burlington actually. So
I want after this is all done, I want to do what I can to help.
thank you. Well, thank you. Wonderful meeting you.
Can I say something about prison reform? I was an FBI agent, and for 20 years, I know I've been working with people in prison, informants or whatever. And I'll tell you what I think really needs to be done in North Carolina, especially other places too. We need to lift the veil on wrongdoing by the prison officials, like not just the prison officers, but the administration. Even people who are working in the prisons don't like working with other prison officers who are are violent and amp the attention up instead of bringing it down. And it's you cannot get a straight answer in about what's going on in prisons, and we need to change that. We need to make the prison system publicly accountable and transparent. Thank you.
Absolutely right, Kathy. I do want to give James Wynn a chance to ask a question, and then Paul Abrio after that. But I completely agree. So James, hop on in, and then we'll go over to Paul.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, I have two small questions, and my first question to the Ford Party is, what changes would you make to the State Board of Elections to make it where it's less corrupt than it is right now? Would you like make changes to it, keep it, abolish it, or whatever? And my second question is, will you make a commitment to change the ballot access laws for third-party and unaffiliated candidates, mainly lowering them? And if so, how low would you want them to be?
All right, Shalane, you're in the hot seat. You want to answer that question?
I'm sorry. It was on. I was reading Brad's restorative justice because I was actually going to bring that up. So, I'm sorry. It was on electoral reform.
Yeah, James, can you repeat the question?
I have basically two questions. My first question is, basically for all the Ford Party is, would you make what changes would you make to the State Board of Elections to make it less corrupt than it is right now? And my second question is, will the Ford Party make commitments to change the ballot access laws, mainly lowering them? And if so, how low would you want them for like all races?
So I would love for other voices to get in here, but when the race is all said and done, my team and I are going to package a kind of recommendations for the State Board of Elections that we had in our experience going through the petition process. One, obviously, I think most of us can agree the burden is too high. I mean, I had to put in a lot of my personal resources and savings to help make the petition a success. The barriers to entry should not be that high. And then even something as simple as, and Ford Party, I know you're trying to get ballot access right now, the dang forms suck. Like, not only are you doing it analog with, pen, paper, and folder, but it's all like, there's not enough room for people to sign. It's like really, really analog process. So we're going to package that for the State Board of Elections, and kind of hopefully there's some incremental reforms that they could at least do. They could at least make the forms a little more user friendly, in my opinion. That's a very easy start.
Absolutely, they definitely make it as hard as possible. Collecting signatures has not been fun, but it's by design. So
and to do it by counties as well. I mean, we had so many people collecting signatures on our behalf that were accidentally getting signatures of people that were in different counties, and then those aren't valid, and then people write Tom instead of Thomas as their name, and that's not valid. It's really actually a type of voter suppression, if you will. So yeah, it's really a flawed system and needs reform in a lot of ways.
Definitely agree. James, that kind of answer the question a little bit, or you have anything you want to add on to that? All right, we're going to turn it over to Paul. He's had his hand raised for a little bit, so we'll let Paul speak now.
Hi, MJ.
Hi.
I'm actually from Illinois.
Okay.
And I joined the call because I'm really interested in the Ford Party, and my question is going to be to the candidates. So may I ask a question, even though I'm not from I'm not from North Carolina.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Go
about
ahead.
it is a political question for the candidates. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
If it's for the candidates, definitely.
Okay. So my question is, so for a long time I've actually been disillusioned with both parties, and so the Forward Party is actually giving me hope. And so I've stumbled upon this party and this meetup. My question to you all is, as candidates, what are your three biggest hurdles, and how can the Forward Party help help with those hurdles? Thank you.
That's an awesome question. Anybody want to take that one? Any of our candidates? How can we help? And
Hey,
what do you
I
think?
I can throw one thing out there because there's really just one hurdle, and it's money. The
Yeah.
amount of money that goes into with the Republicans and the Democrats at the top. We had the most expensive Senate race, $480 million for a job that pays what, $170,000 a year. Somebody's paying all that because it's worth it to them. So ideally, we get to a system, and tying back to the last question, maybe where we sort of break the stranglehold, the corrupt and very corrupt state board of elections, and that's both sides has over who can get on. And that's where Andrew has amazing ideas. We're talking about things like open primaries, ranked choice voting, preference voting. But until then, like, it is antithetical to everything I stand for to ask for money. But like, trust me, every candidate on here needs money. The Ford Party needs money. Shalane was talking about what she spent to get on. I don't even want to know because they just make it such a high hurdle, and then they fund, the people that they want. 7 million from out of state went to the Democrats like last week. I was reading the Republicans had pulled something like 22 from out of state in the month of March, 22 million, and that's just what we're competing against.
Definitely, money always helps, and I'm sure all the candidates in this call will put it to good use. They want to represent North Carolina and North Carolinians, so that it won't be wasted. But anyone else have anything they want to ask for or they need for their campaign? Looks like Rhonda Mays might have something to say.
Yes, a big hurdle for me is having volunteers
Okay.
to be at the polls because that is major. And I think when we analyze the number of votes I received in during the primary, I received more votes in at the polls where I had representation, over had representation majority of the day. When I had that sporadic representation, the numbers weren't as high, because you're getting the voters as they're going into the door. And so your name is the last thing they're hearing. So that helps a lot. And just volunteers overall, to phone bank, to canvas, and of course the money, because even though I didn't spend a lot of money during the primary, I've been pushed by my volunteers and my supporters to say you have to up what you did from the primary for the general election. Because for the primary, I made a flyer and had it cut into quads, a two-sided flyer. And that's what I passed out as my literature. And when we went out talking to people, now I've spent this money and only have 500 pieces of literature and hoping to get more money so I can get more literature so we can have it to pass out, because now that I have upped my presence in the quality of my handouts, that is a lot more money that has to be spent. So those are things that I find to be challenging, and as well as being in rural areas. It's hard to canvas in rural areas.
Definitely, definitely. And if any of our candidates want to leave like a website, the chat, we're going to send out a follow-up email with our website, and we'll have the candidates on our website, of course. So, but if any of you want to leave something in the chat, your website or anything like that, please feel free to do so. And then Evan, I think you had your hand raised for a long time, so we're going to let you speak. Yeah. Definitely. And that being said, we'll take some last minute questions and then we're going to wrap up. I think some of us might stay on the call if you want to hang back and ask some questions to the leadership. But I'd like to take any last minute questions and then, we can wrap up. But go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'm just curious.